Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing this evening? Okay, so we're going to switch things up a little bit. I want to welcome all of our distinguished guests this evening. I want to welcome our judges as well, too. But I know normally we break it up like what schools on what side, but I know that the boys are in the back, right? And they're ready to hear from you. So in 3 seconds, we're going to make as much noise as we possibly can. Even if you want to get up on your feet, you can as well, too. So 1, 2, 3. And who's here? Who are we representing tonight? Let's hear some schools. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think I hear something in there. I want them in the back to be like, okay. So first I want to introduce our judges tonight. I want to say thank you for your time, for coming tonight and taking your time to be here for our young men. Firstly, we have Miss Charlene Place, HR partner, Bermuda government, and member of Zeta Phi Beta sorority. Dr. David Sam, president of Bermuda College. We have Miss Nina Wilson, Beta Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. And we have Miss Shakobi Baisden. And we also have the Honorable Diallo Rabane this evening as well, too. Let's give it up for our judges. Thank you very much. So I was once in the shoes of these young men who we're going to be seeing this evening, and I must tell you, it's a long process to get here. It's 6 months of a journey. You know, they're doing community service. They're doing Toastmasters. Let's give it up for Toastmasters. Come on, I mean. And it's a nurturing process to get here to this point tonight. So of course they're nervous, but they're also very, very excited. You know, they're going to be introducing themselves to you shortly. They're going to be letting you know some of their accomplishments, who they are, who they're representing, and I'm so excited. I got to meet some of them this week coming into it, and it's just brought all the memories back from when I was doing it as well, too. So let's make some noise for these young men one more time again. Okay, yeah, so I'm not gonna keep holding us up as long as we're ready to go, and I have the green light. We're gonna bring them right out to introduce you to them. So we're gonna have a cue this evening, okay? So I just wanna make it really easy. So like I said, we're gonna do it a little bit different. We're not gonna do it by schools, but we're gonna do it by noise. So my cue is gonna be ladies and gentlemen, okay? Is everybody good with that? So when I say ladies and gentlemen, we're screaming. Like I want them to hear us outside as well too, okay? All right, so ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, our Alpha Bows.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dejan Butterfield, and I am 18 years of age. I am extremely humbled and honored to be standing here in front of you today, representing the best high school in Bermuda, the mighty Cedar Bridge Academy. During my time at Cedar Bridge Academy, I have served in numerous leadership roles, such as head boy, prefect, peer forward outreach manager, student government representative, and last but not least, Cedar Bridge Academy cricket team captain. I am very passionate about my faith and aviation, for my faith has brought me this far, for I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. My favorite Bible verse is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. In the future, I plan to pursue my lifelong dream of aviation and becoming a commercial airline pilot. Thank you and welcome. Enjoy the show.
Good evening. My name is Nico Bean. I'm 16 years old, and I'm the first ever representative of Summersfield Academy in the Alpha Beautillion. I am an honors student and the sole owner of Flow by Nico. an art business where I create and sell acrylic wood paintings and turn into everyday art products. I have a passion for art, and some of my work has been featured in local art galleries. After graduation, I plan to go to university in the UK to study business and entrepreneurship. Throughout my journey as an entrepreneur and a student, I have overcome many challenges and learned valuable lessons. That growth has led me here today, driven my purpose, and prepared to make an impact. Please enjoy the show.
Graduate from the green and gold campus, the Berkeley Institute. It is an honor to be the 2025 Alpha Boat representative, as it is my last initiative as deputy head boy. I am a prefect, peer leader, international representative for Bermuda, and also a male mental health advocate. In the fall, I plan to go to Acadia University to get a degree in sociology, to come home and help to revamp the boys' home and support systems for young men in Bermuda. I live by this quote: the goal isn't to live forever, but to leave something behind that will. Respecte for them, keep the end in view. Welcome and enjoy the show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ishmael Naylor. I am the proud beau for the Maroon, Gold, and Green, the School of Holy Love and Dreams, the Bermuda Institute. I am currently an alumnus of this institution with dreams of becoming an aviation engineer. Music and sports play an important role in my life, with football being my most passionate feature. At the age of 16, I got the opportunity to play for the Daventry Colts Football Club. Throughout this season, we ran 16-0 as the undefeated champions in the first division. This created Bermudian history. One quote that I live by throughout my life is God gives his toughest battles to his toughest soldiers. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight, and please enjoy the show.
My name is Trey Simmons. I'm glad to be representing my alma mater, Warwick Academy. As a former Warwick Academy student, I played for the varsity basketball team. Outside of school, I scuba dive, achieved a black belt in karate, and played for the 2025 BYB Select Team. I plan to attend Tuskegee University and achieve a degree in zoology to pursue my passion in animal research and conservation. I plan to travel the world helping animals through conservation and bringing my knowledge and expertise back to Bermuda. Thank you all for coming this evening, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, I heard a lot of noise for Berkeley. I'm not being biased, but no, honestly, it's gonna be a tight show this year. Are we excited? Yes, I'm excited. Just watching that, it brought back all the feelings. Like, ladies and gentlemen, come on. So before we move forward, we are gonna have some president's remarks. Brother Tanker couldn't make it with us this evening, but we will be having Rakai Benz, who's gonna come out and give the president's remarks. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Rakai Benz to the stage from the Absent Data Lander Chapter.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. Congratulations to the young men and to the families that we celebrate this evening. Just bringing some remarks from our president, Brother Jonathan Tankard, who couldn't be with us this evening. My name is Rakai Benz, Vice President of the Epsilon Theta Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi Fraternity. It is my honor and privilege to bring to you the greetings on behalf of the Epsilon Theta Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, as we celebrate another extraordinary edition of our Beautillion program. For more than 20 years, the program has stood as a cornerstone of our chapter's commitment to the development, upliftment, and leadership formation of young men in Bermuda. Tonight, we celebrate not only the achievements of this year's bows, but also the enduring legacy of this initiative, one that has shaped generations of confident, capable, and community-minded young men. I extend a heartfelt gratitude to the Beautillion Committee for their tireless work, vision, and dedication. Your efforts have ensured the continued success and growth of this program year after year. You have provided guidance, mentorship, and opportunity, and your impact will be felt far beyond this evening. In 2025, the Epsilon Theta Lambda chapter proudly marked 75 years of Alpha in Bermuda, and since our founding, we have held fast to the fraternity's mission of service, leadership, and advocacy. Service is simply not what we do, it is who we are. From the classroom to the boardroom, from the pulpit to the public square, Alpha men in Bermuda have remained steadfast to the pursuit of excellence and uplift. To our bows, this moment is only the beginning. Carry forward the lessons, discipline, and pride that have brought you to this point. We believe in you, and we are proud of you. With Alpha Spirit, Jonathan Tankard, President, Epsilon Theta Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Incorporated. Thank you.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yes, and this just speaks a testament to how important it is to have chapters like this in Bermuda and just touching our young men here. Let's give it up for yourselves for coming out, supporting our young men. This is the type of support that we need here in Bermuda. It's lovely to see our young men up here tonight, showcasing not only themselves, their families, schools. This is what it's all about. It's amazing. So going into our next portion, we're actually going to have an oratorical piece. So they're going to be answering a question. And, I'm thinking back now to what my question was when I was in the Alpha Beautillion, and I feel like it was around the sugar tax and how that has aged, right? So these are the type of questions that we have to be, engaging with our youth to get some insight as to how they feel about what's going on in our country. And, it's nice to see both sides of the coin, right? How do we see it from a more mature perspective? And how do we see it from the youth? So, conversations like this, we're going to see some great answers tonight. Are we ready? Okay, I'm gonna keep talking a little bit first, though, before we bring them out. As we bring them out, I just want to encourage you to keep making as much noise as possible for these young men. And even if they're not from the same school, let's big them up, okay? Is that okay? Can we do that, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, perfect. Perfect, perfect. So I will give you a little bit of insight into what this year's question may be. I'm even thinking of it myself now. I'm not going to spoil it. But honestly, no, this is what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad that we're about to hear from these young men tonight. I want to say first up, we are going to have... Who do we want to hear from first this evening? Can I hear some noise? What school is going to come out making the most noise this evening? I'm telling you, it's close. I don't know, for some reason, I'm just keep on hearing Barkley. It's no bias. I'm sorry. So, are we ready to hear from our bows tonight? Yes? Are we ready? Ladies and gentlemen, let's make some noise.
Good evening. Standardized testing. Do we really need it? Or is it just an unofficial and incomplete way to measure how well a student is doing in school? In my honest opinion, it's definitely the latter of the two options. Standardized testing can be extremely stressful. They don't show the full range of what a student can do, and they can also be biased in many of ways. I think that it's time we start asking whether these tests are actually helping students or just making things harder for them. Let's start with the stress. Almost every student I know gets nervous before a big test, but standardized testing takes that stress to a whole nother level. You're told that this one test can decide your future, what classes you take, what college you get into, or even whether you may graduate. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone, especially when that person might just only be 16 or 17 years of age. I've seen many classmates freeze during a test, even though they knew the material. And once that happens, it's extremely hard to recover. So many students perform worse on these tests just because they're anxious, not because they don't understand the subject. That alone makes standardized testing feel extremely unfair. These tests don't also just put extreme pressure on the students sitting these tests, they also put stress on the teachers who need to get the students prepared for such exams. Sometimes, the teachers are forced to narrow down the curriculum so that they can focus on test preparation and test preparation only. This can cause many students to not explore other subjects or other elements of the subject that they are focusing on for that particular test. In my opinion, this is a huge and overlooked problem when it comes to standardized testing. Secondly, let's talk about what these tests actually measure. Most of them are focused on things like reading comprehension, grammar, and math. Those things are definitely important, but they're not the only things that matter. What about creativity? What about critical thinking, teamwork, leadership, or even speaking skills? Some people might not be good at filling in bubbles on a Scantron, but they're amazing artists, writers, speakers, or even problem solvers. Just because a student scores low on a standardized test doesn't mean they're not smart. It just means that the test didn't capture their kind of intelligence. Everyone learns and shows knowledge in different ways, and one test should not define a whole person. Now, here's a really big problem: bias. Standardized tests are supposed to be equal for everyone, but the truth is, they really aren't. Students who may have a language barrier because they have moved from a non-English speaking country to a country where English is the first language might have a disadvantage compared to others who are taking the test. Even if the student understands what is being written, the way they comprehend what is being asked of them may raise a significant challenge because of the language used. Even the questions on the test can sometimes be unfair. They might assume that everyone taking the test has had the same kind of education or cultural experiences. But that's just not true. A student might get confused by the way a question is worded or the examples it uses, not because they don't understand the subject, but because the test wasn't written with them in mind. That kind of bias is subtle, but it has a big impact. So, if standardized tests are so flawed, what's the alternative? I think schools should look at multiple ways to assess students, like class projects, presentations, portfolios, and teacher evaluations. These methods show what a student can actually do with what they've learned, not just how well they can take a test. They also let students express themselves in different ways, depending on their strengths. In the end, education should be about helping students grow, not just measuring them with one number. Standardized tests might be easy for schools to organize and grade, but they're not always fair or accurate. They cause stress, they overlook talents, and they often favor some students over others. So no, I do not think that we need standardized testing, at least the way we use it now. If we really want to support students, we need to find better, more thoughtful ways to show what they know and who they are.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be tight, right? Yeah. So we're talking about standardized testing. I don't know. It's been a while since I took a test like that, but on the morning of, I'm going to school, and it's not easy. You're sweating the whole time. So it's a very interesting question that we're talking about, and I love to hear it. How did we love tests? I feel like it was an important part of the process, though, right? Even after, you might be like, okay, now I see why I needed to learn that, or now I see why I had to be tested on it. So it is interesting to hear from it, and things are changing. So, everything's digital now. I remember I was talking to one of my friends recently, and when I went away to school and was doing things in college, I went to Sheridan and then Seneca, and everything was done on paper at that time, and this was right before kind of the COVID situation happened. So now I talk to my friends, they're like, yo, everything we do is online. I'm saying, really? No paper? You mean you're not sitting in class doing a test? They're like, no, we just do it online. I'm saying, whoa. So things do change. So it is interesting to hear different perspectives. So are we ready to hear from our next beau? Ladies and gentlemen? All right, let's make some noise. Welcome Nico Bean to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, representing Summersfield Academy.
Have you ever felt the pain of not achieving your full potential? Are you a creative person but don't get the opportunity for your creativity to shine? Or do you find it hard to show what you really know by dealing with the pressure of multiple choice and time questions? For many students, traditional standardized tests can hold them back. While exams help measure certain skills, they don't work for everyone. Some students are project-based learners who end up with lower grades simply because their school focuses too much on tests. I believe schools should keep standardized testing but reduce its dominance by balancing exams and project-based assessments equally, grading them both 50-50. It would give all students a fair chance to succeed. This approach would help students thrive in the learning style that suits them. Students who think and learn differently can show their full potential, and it will improve student well-being. I know this firsthand. Projects are where I shine, consistently earning top grades throughout my education. At first, I never knew why, but then it hit me. I was made to create. Projects helped lift the weight of exam stress and gave me the freedom and clarity to write what I wanted, when I wanted. And this doesn't just go for me. Many creative learners are held back in exam-focused schools, not because they lack ability, but because their strengths simply lie elsewhere. In a study comparing project-based work to traditional exams, in an engineering course at Griffith University, students scored significantly higher on their projects than on their exams, and also reported enhanced engagement and real-world clarity in their learning. Introducing more projects in a school's curriculum gives students the chance to shine by learning and expressing themselves in ways that truly match their strengths, not just their test-taking skills. Moreover, students with learning difficulties perform better in project-based environments, yet often underperform in exam-only schools. This is because projects give students with learning difficulties the chance to engage, build confidence, and demonstrate understanding in ways standard exams cannot capture. On the other hand, entrepreneurs like myself think differently and often are more hands-on learners. Recapping a semester in one test feels unnatural, but give me a project and my creativity takes over. That's when I do my best work. Fortunately, my school strikes a strong balance between projects and exams, giving me the foundation to succeed. However, students like entrepreneurs in exam-focused schools may feel inferior to their test-performing peers, even though they're equally as smart, just in a different way. Furthermore, reducing the number of standardized tests and increasing projects will reduce exam stress for students. Stress that once would have contributed to procrastination and a lack of sleep can now be put toward better well-being and more time to focus on getting good project grades. This shift not only supports mental health, but also leads into a better understanding of how each student learns. In conclusion, grading students through an equal balance of exams and projects can be crucial to their success. It will give them the opportunity to thrive in the learning style that suits them, allowing students who think and learn differently to show their full potential, and it will improve student well-being. Too often, teachers teach what's needed to pass the test, not what's needed for a student to truly understand. If all we do is study for a test, we're just echoing what the teacher wants us to hear, rather than thinking creatively and critically. That's why schools should not eliminate standardized testing, but instead reduce its dominance and introduce more project-based grading. By rethinking how we assess learning, we can shift the focus from memorizing for marks to better understanding, growing, and preparing for the real world. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Nico one more time. Amazing, yes. I love it, and that's a great way to look at things as well, too, you know, like I love projects, and I think we kind of see eye to eye on that entrepreneur side as well, too. It's just you hit in a whole different lane there, so it's lovely to see different approaches to the way that we could do our learning these days, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, I think I know what school's coming up next. Who have we heard from so far, everybody? Come on, make some noise. Who? Okay, I heard Summersfield. All right. And I think we heard from Cedar Bridge already, yeah? Okay, I like it. We got support in the building. Is there any posters here? I see some posters. Yes, I love it. Okay, Nico, yes. Amazing, okay. So coming up next, I would love to introduce, ladies and gentlemen, Mikhail Willis from the Barclay Institute. Ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening. There is a quote that has guided the thoughts of many generations. Education is the passport to the future. For those who prepare for it tomorrow, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. These powerful words from Malcolm X speak to the heart of why we gather here tonight. They remind us that learning isn't just about passing time in the classroom. It's about building the foundation for something greater. Around the world, standardized testing, exams like the SAT, ACT, APs, GCEs, and GCSEs has become a fierce topic of debate. Critics call them stressful or outdated, but removing them would take away one of the few tools that levels the playing field. These examinations provide students with global recognition, consistency, and ensure equal access. The question we face today is whether schools should eliminate standardized testing altogether. And as a recent graduate from one of Bermuda's public schools, I believe they should not. Standardized testing isn't perfect, but it is a powerful equalizer. It offers a consistent way to measure student performance regardless of location, background, or school resources. According to the College Board, over 4,000 universities globally accept the SAT in their admissions process. This means students in rural towns, underfunded schools, or even a tiny island like Bermuda can stand shoulder to shoulder with students from the best, most prestigious schools. These exams provide an external, unbiased measure, which is a common ground in an unequal world. Without them, how do we fairly compare the abilities of students across schools, countries, or regions? To truly understand their value, it is important to clear up a common misunderstanding. Many people confuse standardized testing with regular school exams, but they are not the same. Standardized exams are created by international organizations, taken under uniform conditions, and scored by the same standards worldwide. Local tests often vary in difficulty, format, and grading. Eliminating standardized testing removes more than just another exam. It takes away a shared standard that brings fairness to an unequal system. That standard matters. Take it away, and even more students and entire schools get left behind, deepening the inequality. I've experienced this firsthand. As a recent graduate of a Bermudian public school, one of the last to earn the Bermuda School Diploma, I have seen both the benefits and limitations of the regular internal assessments. Personalized learning has value as it helps students to grow in meaningful, individual ways. But I've also watched how external exams become a lifeline for classmates and for myself. They've opened doors to scholarships, universities, and opportunities that have felt out of reach. These tests offered validation and recognition that local exams couldn't, proving our education matters beyond our shores. That's why they are so important. They help to ensure that opportunity reaches every classroom, not just the most privileged. Yes, exams can and should improve, but eliminating them entirely would only hold students back. In conclusion, It is apparent that schools should not eliminate standardized testing. While no exam is perfect, these assessments provide fairness, credibility, and opportunity in ways other tools can't. They allow students to compete, to prove themselves, and to be seen. They hold schools accountable, highlight areas for improvement, and support national and international benchmarks. Most importantly, they give students, regardless of background or circumstance, a fair shot at being seen, supported, and given the chance to succeed. Let us not take away these exams that allow young people to be recognized for their efforts, intelligence, and ambition. Let us instead commit to doing testing better. Because if education is the passport to the future, then standardized testing, when done correct, is the stamp that validates it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mikhail, let's go. I remember when I was getting ready for my speech, I swear my parents were like, yo, I think you got it down now, right? Because you're in the mirror. I'm waking up saying it. I'm having dreams saying it. So I think they got it nailed down. Let's give it up for Toastmasters again one more time. Honestly, aren't they doing amazing so far? I can hear everything that they're saying. I know that we can hear it all the way at the back. They're making some amazing points tonight. They're landing the plane, as they say, right? They're landing the plane. Okay, so I think we still have two more young men to hear from this evening. So we've heard from the Berkeley Institute. We've heard from Summersfield. We've heard from the Cedar Bridge Academy, yes? Okay, so who do we think's coming up next? Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Ishmael Naylor from the Bermuda Institute.
Good evening. Why standardized testing should be eliminated? This is something I've always thought about, especially while taking exams. I often find myself stressed, wondering, what is the point of these exams? It's a big question that sticks with me. In my opinion, schools should eliminate standardized testing altogether. The debate around standardized testing is ongoing in my classroom. Some students support it, while others, like me, believe it should be removed. Standardized tests are designed to measure students' performance using the same questions in the same format under the same conditions. But here's the problem. Not all students learn or think the same way. For many, these tests are more about memorization and pressure than actual learning. According to the American Psychological Association, standardized testing can lead to increased stress, anxiety, and even depression in students. When schools place too much emphasis on these tests, students start to feel like their entire future depends on one day of performance. You either pass and succeed or fail and fall behind. That's a lot of pressure and is not fair. Standardized testing only measures one type of intelligence, academic. It doesn't consider creativity, problem-solving, leadership, or emotional intelligence, skills that are essential in the real world. Some students may not be test smart, but are real-world smart. These students might struggle in a classroom test, but thrive in hands-on projects or groups discussions. Personally, I learn better through doing. If there were tests that allow for hands-on or learning demonstrations, I would do much better. I can't sit in a classroom for an hour straight and stay focused. After a while, my mind starts wandering. Then I'm expected to take notes, memorize everything, and study for a test that I'll probably forget the day after. Students from the National Education Association support this. Many students forget test content shortly after the test is over because they study to pass, not to retain. One of the biggest flaws in standardized testing is that schools often teach to test. That means lessons are designed to help students score well, not to help them understand the world or become better, well-rounded individuals. The real world doesn't hand you multiple choice questions. It demands problem-solving, communication, and adaptability. In a survey conducted by Gallup, only 20% of students said that their high school prepared them for real-life challenges. That's a problem. We should be focusing on skills that prepare us for jobs, relationships, financial decisions, and personal growth, not just tests. There are better ways to measure student learning. For example, group projects encourage collaboration and creative thinking. Portfolios allow students to showcase their work and progress over time. Performance-based assessments, like presentations or real-world simulations, can test understanding in a practical way. And learning apps tracking tools can help teachers monitor student growth continuously, not just during exam season. These alternatives are not only more engaging, but they also give a fuller picture of students' abilities. Standardized tests aren't meant for everyone. While they may help schools collect data, they don't accurately reflect students' intelligence, effort, or potential. Life itself is a test of your character, mindset, and ability to overcome challenges. Schools should prepare us for that, not just filling in bubbles on a sheet. It's time for education systems to rethink what success looks like. True success isn't defined by test scores, but the ability to think, learn, and grow beyond the classroom.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Ishmael Naylor from Bermuda Institute once again. I'm telling you, that 5 minutes, it comes at you. It comes at you real fast. But who's dressing these young men tonight, yo? They're looking fly. I'm seeing some different shoes. I'm seeing some fitted tuxes. Yeah, they're looking fly. Let's give it up for the parents. You guys got them looking amazing tonight. Yes. Yes. Now, I don't know, do we have any teachers in the audience tonight as well, too? We must. Let's give it up for our teachers. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. They don't have it easy as well, either. You know, I had to do a Kahoot the other day for my job, and the amount of time I had to, get the images right, it takes a lot of time to be a teacher, and that was for one Kahoot. So let's give it up for our teachers one more time. Come on. Yeah, it's not easy, but they are who is shaping our future, yes? And I think we're in good hands from our young men that we see so far, yes? Can we say that we're in good hands? Yes. So we've heard from 4 of our gentlemen this evening so far. Okay, yes. So I think we have the Warwick Academy up next. Is Warwick in the building? Are we here? Stand up, come on, let them know that you're here. Let's introduce Trey Simmons from the Warwick Academy.
What's the point of standardized testing? According to Libby Stanford, a majority of teachers find that state-mandated tests aren't useful in the classroom. Only 25% of educators said state-mandated tests provide useful information on a student's learning. This is an alarming stat, since standardized tests are used to measure students' learning across the world. If the very teachers who prepare students for these tests, whose results can shape a student's future, say they aren't effective for measuring learning, why are we still using them? Why are we letting a test that doesn't fully show someone's intelligence affect what college they go to, or their future careers? But what is a standardized test? Standardized tests are defined as any test that's administered, interpreted, and scored in a standard, predetermined manner. According to W. James Popham, former president of the American Educational Research Association, standardized tests only test memorization and are outdated, although they do have benefits for education. During a standardized test, for a student to get a high score, they'd have to think and answer almost identically to whoever created the answers for the test. While this can be an effective method in schools, since everyone is learning the same syllabus, it doesn't test any skills past memorization. This is a frustration me and many of my classmates have shared throughout our years of schooling. Me and multiple of my classmates find that studying for tests feels more like memorization, rather than actually learning and retaining the information. You'll rarely find a standardized test that tests a student on their critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, or resilience. Although these can be tested and explored during different lessons and activities, they are skills that are rarely assessed, especially because teachers often teach to the test, meaning any extra learning not related to their end-of-year test or state-mandated test just doesn't occur. Therefore, leaving students without meaningful learning that could have developed skills needed later in life. Furthermore, schools often give extra time focused on standardized tests, which take away from time for other activities that would be beneficial to students. The students lose chances to connect learning to the real world or explore interests just so they can get a high score on their report card. Standardized tests are also outdated. They first originated in 7th century China to appoint government officials based on their merit and intelligence rather than family lineage. It was then introduced in America in the 1800s during the Industrial Revolution to reintroduce school-age farmhands and manufacturing employees to the classroom. Since they were introduced, standardized tests haven't encouraged critical thinking, which would be great for a factory worker, but in the modern day, with the wide array of jobs available, critical thinking is a necessity. These tests also ignore the fact different students have different learning styles, as well as putting neurodivergent people and people learning English at a disadvantage. Standardized tests also reinforce inequality since students with wealthier backgrounds often have access to test prep, tutors, and resources that boost scores, advantages not available to all. Although standardized tests do have their benefits, they allow for objective measurement of students' learning, since each student is asked the same question under the same conditions. The test is designed so that no student has an advantage over another. This also allows for an easy comparison between students and shows gaps between students' learning. Standardized tests effectively show educators which students may be falling behind and need extra classes. This is data that can be used by schools and governments to provide further funding for schools to provide students with better education programs. Finally, these tests hold teachers and schools accountable by showing which groups and classes are underperforming and need more help. In conclusion, while standardized testing can be effective in showing students' performance in certain classes and gives a broad idea of a student's learning, it ignores the needs of individual students. Since the tests are made for large groups to take, the same test ignores the qualities that make students unique. Qualities which can make someone extremely successful, but don't show up on a standardized test. While I believe standardized tests are helpful for showing a student's progress in school, they shouldn't be the main way to measure someone's intelligence. Rather, incorporating more classes and tests that assess a student's skills like critical thinking, teamwork, and creativity would be beneficial to all students. Thank you for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Trey Simmons from the Work Academy once again. We've heard some amazing points tonight, haven't we? I agree. So let's give it up for Cedar Bridge one more time. We had Dejan Butterfield from the Cedar Bridge Academy. Cedar Bridge in the house? Okay, Cedar Bridge is here. We had Nico B from Summersfield Academy. Summersfield said, don't let me know. Cup match ready? We had Mikhail Willis from the Barclay Institute. Okay, let's go, Barclay. We had Ishmael Naylor from the Bermuda Institute, BI. I think BI is over this side. And we had Trey Simmons from the Work Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for our Alpha Buzz. Amazing. Yeah, so I think it's that time of the show where you might be getting a little antsy. You want to stretch your legs? Who wants to stretch their legs? I think yes. You might not want to say it, but I think so. So we're about to have our intermission, okay? They told me to let you know it's going to be 15 minutes. So I know we like to talk, and once we start, 15 minutes, okay? 1-5. Can we all agree on that? 15 minutes? Yes? Okay, and the ladies of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated will be outside. They'll have some refreshments. They have a stand out there. Please support them as well, too, okay? So, all yours now, intermission time, okay? 15 minutes, 1-5. If I have to come out there, we're in bad shape, okay? refreshed. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready? I just went downstairs, check on the birds. They're doing good. Just want to tell you that everyone's okay, but they're excited. They're excited. Can you let them backstage hear you? Can we make some noise for the birds? Come on, make some noise for them. There's that air horn. So we're getting down to some of the best parts of the show. There's just this time of the night. And I think they'll split up this year, but when we done it, I think we all had maybe one dressing room or we had something going like that, and it was just pure jokes being cracked. The best part of this is the bond that these guys are gonna make together, right? And it's just like, it's almost like a brotherhood after that. I heard that they might be taking a trip as well, too. Woo. I hope MC gets to come out with that as well. No, but honestly, it's a great experience for the young gentlemen, and I think we are ready to see the first talent portion, are we? Are we? Is everyone still in the building? Yes? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to welcome from the Barclay Institute, Mikhail Willis.
I don't have it, okay? We need it now! Come on. Get him over! Get
They say we are divided, that I'm different from you. But look,
beneath my skin and beneath your skin, we both bleed the same color. We are red. Red like the beat of a heart. Through our veins, keeping us alive together. Even if we pretend not to see it, even if we act like it's not true. We live on a small island where everybody is connected. Through friendships, through family, through our history. And still, we are throwing lives away. Our own brothers, our own sisters, our own cousins. Empathy is missing. People have forgotten how to walk in someone else's shoes. You can't understand somebody's story until you felt the struggle, until you carry your weight so heavy, it makes breathing feel like a battle. They say we are different, but why? Because our skin isn't the same shade? Because we come from different sides of the island? Because we wear different brands? That doesn't make me better than you, nor does it make me less than you. Because beneath my skin and beneath your skin, we both bleed the same color. We are red. And still, we are throwing ours away, our own blood, our own flesh. We have forgotten the art of disagreeing, and everything is taken so personally now. Trapping and affiliating, and brothers against brothers, and cousins against cousins, and sisters are very too soon. But what is the answer? I bet if I was to ask you the answer, nobody would be able to tell me the answer. Because becomes the answer. But what is because? It is time to let go of that hate, and it is time to let go of that pride. Because beneath my skin and beneath your skin, we all bleed the same color. We are red. And I'm not standing here today for myself. I'm standing here on behalf of all of us, trying to make sense of a world that keeps forgetting that we are human. A world that takes our pain and fears it before it listens. A world that labels us. It is time to let go of that hate, and it is time to let go of that pride, because beneath my skin and beneath your skin, we all bleed the same color. When we look, we are red, not black, not white, not brown. We all bleed the same color. So the next time you raise your fist or you reach for that trigger, just know that blood you're gonna spill could have been mine, could have been your dad's, could have been your brother's, could have been your cousin's. Yours is. And it's time to let go of that hate. And it's time to let go of that fight. And it's time to find that hope. Because even in the darkness, we as an island, we as a community, we as a family have the power to find the light. We are red.
Very strong message, very powerful. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up one more time. And you see, this is why I love Bermuda, because even though somehow we're all almost related, right? You know, you go down, you have a family reunion, oh, you're my cousin, That's why I love Bermuda. And you know, sometimes when you take a trip away, you've been away for a little while, you're like, I can't wait to go back home. You know, it's just that feeling when you're landing on the plane and you're like, that's that Bermuda air. You know, not literally Bermuda, but you know, that Bermuda air, right? It's just an amazing feeling, even to just be going, you know, sometimes you might be going to the store for one thing, and we run into something that we know, or we run into like a little friend or a little teacher or someone, what are you doing? These are the type of check-ins that we need. You know, these are the type of conversations that need to be had, and I'm glad that we're seeing all different messages. We're going to be seeing all different talents tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, how are we enjoying ourselves? Yes. I was telling you guys, look, this is the best part of the show, right? This is like, you're getting like mid-May, you already spoke to everyone, you introduced yourself, and now it's just time to have fun. You know, represent yourself, your school, your family, your talent portion. The talent portion is the best part, other than the step. Don't get me wrong, this is the step, right? Okay, so are we ready for our next quote, ladies and gentlemen? I think we have Summer Spirit Academy coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce Nico.
Have you ever had a moment where everything just clicked? For me, that moment came with a cup and a blank canvas. It was the summer of 2021. I was experimenting with many different painting styles when I found something that felt different. Acrylic water. Abstract, unpredictable, and beautiful. And just like that, Flow by Nico was born. Hi, my name is Nico Bean. I'm 16 years old and the owner of Flow by Nico, an art business where I take original acrylic wood paintings and turn them into something you can use every day. Phone cases, notebooks, tote bags, and accessory pouches. Everyday art. Art has always been more than just color and canvas to me. It's how I process the world. When I paint, I feel focused, present, and free. It's my therapy, my outlet, and my way of communicating things that I can't always say out loud. Acrylic pour in particular taught me to let go of perfection because no pour is the same. That's the beauty in it. It's messy, it's unpredictable, it's light. And when someone picks up a notebook with my art on the cover, they're not just holding a product, they're holding a piece of my heart, my process, my story. It all started with a message in my granny's church group chat. She sent a photo of one of my paintings, and the next thing I knew, people were asking to buy them. I didn't start this to make money. I just love painting. But the more I created, the more people wanted it. So I kept going. Since then, I've sold at over 40 pop-up stores, been featured in 3 Bermuda Society of Art shows, and I've shipped my products locally and overseas. My products are in major Bermudian retailers, including P-Tech, Stationery Store, Masterworks, and Loki Loki. In 2024, I pitched my heart out at the Wave of Opportunity Pitch Competition, and that $25,000 grant changed everything. I have created new products, my e-commerce site is about to launch, and I was even named the most enterprising young entrepreneur by BEDC. But it's not just about the words or numbers. It's about resilience, commitment, and passion. Running a business while doing the IB program is no joke. There were days I wanted to give up, but every happy customer, every successful deal, those moments kept me going. What people don't always see is what happens behind the curtains. The late nights fulfilling orders after doing homework, the moments of doubt when I wondered if anyone would care about my art. But I always reminded myself, I'm not just doing this for today. I'm building something bigger, something lasting. When you create from a place of love and intention, people feel it and they connect to it. That's the magic of art. Outside of business, I find balance. You might find me slicing my golf ball into the trees, or going fishing and catching well, mostly seaweed. But these moments remind me why I do what I do. They bring me back to my center. Flow by Nico isn't just a brand. It's proof that a 12-year-old with a paintbrush can become a CEO. It's proof that art isn't just something you hang on the wall. It's something you carry with you. To any young person watching this, don't wait for permission to start. Whether it's candles, jewelry, or music, if you love it, do it. Your passion is your power. Your story is your business plan. Along this journey, I've realized that success isn't just built on hustle. It's built on people, mentors, supporters, family, and friends. My parents' network gave me my first leads. BEDC gave me my first platform. and every person who believed in me helped shape Club into what it is today. I don't just want to sell things. I want to spark belief in others, especially young people. You don't need to be famous or grown or have it all figured out. You just need a starting point and the courage to begin. If my story helps someone else to take their first steps, then every risk, every challenge, it's all worth it. My name is Nico B. I'm an artist, entrepreneur, student, and proof that young people.
Ladies and gentlemen, and I really love the message in there as well too, right? Just start. You know, just start. Whether that be, you know, going to the gym, just start. You want to take a walk in the evening, just start. You want to switch up your diet, just start, right? It could be anything, you know, and I love to see that. And starting so young, right? It just goes to show you can do anything. And Nico's mom is amazing as well too. Put a round of applause for his family. I got to meet Nico before, and just lovely things coming from our young people. So let's put our hands together one more time, please. Okay, so we started with Barkley, and then we had Summersfield now. I think we're getting excited for who's coming next. Okay, we're in the house. See the bridges here? Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please make some noise for Dejan Butterfield from the Secret.
wake-up alarm. They don't see the calluses on your fingers and palms from the balls whooshing promise. They don't even check on you to see if you still want this. You have to want it from deep within from your mind, your heart, your body, and your soul. They don't see all the hard work and dedication you put in. They didn't see Dejan putting in the nets early mornings until the sun went down. They didn't see Dejan putting in the nets every day until his arms were jelly, like a jellyfish in the sea. They didn't see Dejan Butterfield shadow batting in his mirror. They didn't see Dejan Butterfield burning to his coach, his teammates. They judged me by what I did on the pitch that day. They judged me by how many runs I scored. They judged me by how many wickets I took that day. They judged me, but they didn't judge all my hard work. They didn't judge me for the hours
that I put in, they only judged me for what they saw on that pitch, which wasn't all just me. What I put in was the hard work, and what I put out was the results from that hard work. Dejan Butterfield, even if they didn't see you, I saw you. And that's all that matters, that I saw you. Your support system saw you. The fans may not have seen you, but your support system saw you. Dejan, you don't do this for a highlight reel. You do it for discipline. Discipline that can take you far in life for your next chapter. Dejan, keep going. Dejan, you got this. All the work that you put in is taking you to higher heights. Higher heights, playing cup match, Eastern Connie. Playing for Bermuda's national team. Training with some of Bermuda's best. Although not everyone saw you, I saw you. Dejan Butterfield, keep going. Keep going with dedication. Dejan, you got this. Keep going.
We got curriculum, we got artists. I'm telling you, we're doing big so far. So I like the message in that one as well too. And it's, you never see the hard work that goes into the final product, right? And I know some of you out here may have that battle right now as well too. Some of you may be pursuing a higher education. Some of you might be looking to step into a different degree of work. You know, some of you might be challenging yourself to start something new, and like we just said from one before, just start, right? Just begin. And sometimes you have to fall forward. You heard that one? You got to fall forward. It's just like a speed bump. You can either hit the speed bump, not on the road literally, not on the road, like a speed bump. You can either hit it and it slows you down, or you can hit it and take flight, right? And sometimes you have to just put yourself in position to just try. So let's give it up for Dejan one more time. All about this. Alright, so I don't want to hold you up too long, so without further ado, let's introduce our next foe, Trey Simmons from the Oratorical.
No, it's been crying. Trey. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Trey Simmons. Welcome home once again. Okay, we're getting down to it. I want to help out here so we know height-wise as well too how we're looking. This is the behind the scenes, but you see it firsthand. I think we should be good there. Understand? Okay, yes. Hey, this is bringing flashbacks. Oh my gosh. No, but honestly, it's getting to the best part of the show, folks. Are you enjoying it so far? Are you enjoying it so far? Come on, make some noise. Well, I was gonna say, at least we know when they go to New York, parents, everybody's gonna be safe, right? Yes? Trey's got us covered. Yes? Don't mess simple, okay? Alright, so last but not least, I think Bermuda Institute is ready. Are we ready?
Tonight, I have a song that everyone should know. This musician has changed the world of music that we know today. He has shown that music is not just a song, he has shown that music is a poem that has brought peace to the world. Throughout this song, I'm going to start playing so you guys can have a solo and sing together. That's what we get.
How we feeling so far? Who's in the building still? No one's left yet, right? Okay, we're getting to the best part. Like I said, that step's coming. Okay, so we had a lot of talent this evening, folks. Have you enjoyed it so far? I think I'm gonna need a painting as well, too. I got someone to defend us also. We got some spoken word. Everybody is putting on tonight. Don't you love it so far? Don't we have so much talent right here in Bermuda? I'm telling you, they don't see the hard work, they just see the night up, right? Oh, what do you have there? Oh, hey, they know you guys do it when you like to see. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting to one of the best parts of the night. I actually got a little bit anxious earlier and I thought that we was at that part, but this is the part of the night where we're going to be asking the bows each a question. They're all going to have the same question, it's an impromptu question. I really didn't know the question until 5 seconds ago just now, so it's no bias here, you know, I'm not the alma mater up here, no bias. So, without further ado, we're going to have our first bow come out this evening. I don't know who's coming out first. And we're going to have a question of the night. I'm not going to give it away. All right, let's make some noise. How you doing this evening tonight, Dejan?
Good, how are you?
All is well this evening.
Keep it like that.
All right.
Cool.
We ready for your question this evening?
Yes, sir.
Sure. If you had a sit-down with the Minister of Home Affairs to discuss Bermuda's cost of living, what issue would you highlight as the most important and what solutions would you propose? Can you put the question one more time, please? Sure. So if you had a sit-down with the Minister of Home Affairs to discuss Bermuda's cost of living, what issue would you highlight as the most important and what solutions would you propose?
So, if I had to sit down with the Minister of Home Affairs, the first issue I would bring up is homelessness and the lack of affordable housing in Bermuda, because as you walk the streets, you see more and more people on the streets every single day, and a lot of the people, Bermuda is such a small country, small environment, so everyone knows everyone, and everyone could be affected by homelessness and the lack of affordable housing in Bermuda. I think that's a really huge problem. Some solutions I would propose to the Minister of Home Affairs would definitely be more affordable housing. I know that we're getting ready to build, the process of building more affordable housing, but I just don't think that it's enough. I think that obviously Bermuda is expensive, but if we could somehow try and lower the price, I think that'll be the best option, because the homelessness and the lack of affordable housing in Bermuda is really crushing, so crushing for me in particular, and everyone else as well. But if I had to sit down, that's what I'd speak about to the Minister of Home Affairs. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, I didn't even know the question. They put me in the hot seat as well too. I didn't know I was going to be asking. No, but these are the type of questions that we need to engage with our youth in, right? And now I'm kind of at that age, I'm moved on. I'm seeing it's real. Look, like I'm looking at my clock right now. I got work tomorrow. Like, look, you dinner. So, these are the types of questions that we need to have with our youth to engage their minds and to, get them ready for that next step. So without further ado, we are going to have our next bow this evening, which is going to be Nico B. How you doing this evening, Nico?
I'm doing good. And yourself?
Amazing, yes. Are you ready for this evening's question?
Yes, I am.
Right here. If you had to sit down with the Minister of Home Affairs to discuss Bermuda's cost of living, what issue would you highlight as most important, and what solutions would you propose?
That is a very powerful question, for sure. If I were to sit down with the minister, I would talk about the struggle of first of all, finding jobs for Bermudians and also having to work multiple jobs, because many Bermudians are hardworking, 2 or 3 jobs, and it's just a constant cycle of they receive their paycheck at the end of the week and it goes back to bills, food, looking after their children. The solution I would provide is have ownership. Now, what I mean by that is becoming an entrepreneur. These past 4 years running a business has taught me so many valuable lessons about myself and also about being an entrepreneur. Becoming an entrepreneur and growing a business effectively, efficiently, and ethically will give you access to capital that you've probably never even dreamed of. Once you get that access to capital, then it puts you in a much better financial position to then pay for bills and pay for food, pay for rent. And once you keep growing your business and scaling, then you can be put in the opportunity to then give back and use the money that you've made to help out the community and be an inspiration to them and let them know that they are strong, powerful, and they can do great.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, serious conversations here. And it's true, right? It's true. It's very true. And even going away to college and seeing a bit about how other cultures work as well too, it's a thin line between having enough and not having enough, right? And as a parent, as a working adult, we know what this is like, and it's a very thin line. So I'm loving this conversation. I'm loving this topic so far. So ladies and gentlemen, are we ready to hear from our next vote this evening? I don't think that's not enough. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Are we ready to hear from our next vote? Okay. Without further ado, let's welcome Ishmael Naylor to the stage from the Bermuda Institute. All right, ladies and gentlemen, keep it coming. 1 second. So. Yes, all is well. Are you ready for this evening's question?
Yeah.
No, they put me in the hot seat too. So, if you had to sit down with the Minister of Home Affairs to discuss Bermuda's cost of living, what issue would you highlight as most important, and what solutions would you propose?
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Sure. So if you had to sit down with the Minister of Home Affairs to discuss Bermuda's cost of living, what issue would you highlight as most important, and what solutions would you propose?
One of these solutions I would come up with is that you could
If you had to sit down with the Minister of Home Affairs to discuss Bermuda's cost of living, what issue would you highlight as most important, and what solutions would you propose?
One of the issues I would highlight that as most important is definitely like like home ownership. So when you buy a house that you see that you like, you definitely, but you don't have enough money to keep renovating it or whatever, it definitely will start running down, or something's going wrong with it, and it's just there. So I feel like that's a bit unfair because that's a person's dream home, and they definitely love it. So I feel like a solution to come up with that, to help with the increase of it, if it's just sitting there and it's just getting old and it's just getting run down, I feel like one of the solutions would be to just go to the government and say that, I'm gonna just need a little leeway with the situation because it is my dream home, and yeah.
Home ownership, I'm telling you, I think that's everybody's dream, right? Don't we all want to live in our own house? I think that's so right. That rent at the end of the month, it hits, unless you're renting out. But like this is the type of dialogue that we need, and it's very important because at that age, thinking about that is like that's a big thing, right? So we have to have these conversations with our young people. So, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for our boys one more time. Thank you for your support as well too. Are we ready to hear from our next girl this evening? No, I need more voice than that, ladies and gentlemen. Are we ready to hear from our next girl this evening? Okay, so coming in next, we have Trey Simmons from the Work Academy. How are you doing this evening, Trey?
I'm doing good.
As well, yes. Are you ready for this evening's question?
Yes, indeed.
Perfect. Okay, so if you had a sit down with the Minister of Home Affairs to discuss Bermuda's cost of living, what issue would you highlight as most important, and what solutions would you propose?
That's a good question. Could you repeat it for me?
Sure. If you had a sit down with the Minister of Home Affairs to discuss Bermuda's cost of living, what issue would you highlight as the most important, and what solutions would you propose?
I believe the issue that's most important is how much Bermuda spends on food. As we know, we've all been to grocery stores. The food there is extremely expensive, and food is a necessity for life. We all need it. To solve this, I would say adding more space, more facilities, more farmland to produce Bermuda-grown food to make cheaper, more affordable food for families. I think it would solve a lot of issues, and it would solve a lot of problems that could stem from a lack of money because you can't afford as many groceries as somebody else. So I'd say that's how I'd solve the issue.
I love that. So you can tell this girl is some corn or something. This girl has had a little banana before. You notice how it tastes, right? My banana tree just fell over and Pops was like, look, one, hang that thing back up. There's nothing like a local banana. And would you believe I had banana bread for the first time away? And then my mama said, what are you doing? You're doing it backwards. You need to have that Bermuda. So what happens if that boat doesn't come, right? Ladies and gentlemen, I think we all still want to eat, yes? It's very true. Okay, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've heard from most of our boys this evening, and saving the last but not least, we have to hear from the Balcony Institute. Good evening. Good evening, how you doing this evening?
I'm alright.
Oh, so I love those shoes as well, too.
Stacey Adams.
I'm telling you, everyone's stepping up tonight. So you ready for this evening's question?
Confident.
Okay, let's do it. If you had to sit down with the Minister of Home Affairs to discuss Bermuda's cost of living, what issue would you highlight as most important? And what solutions would you propose?
May you repeat the question, please?
Surely, yes. If you had a sit-down with the Minister of Home Affairs to discuss Bermuda's cost of living, what issue would you highlight as most important? And what solutions would you propose?
If I had the opportunity to sit down with the Minister of Home Affairs to talk about the cost of living and the solutions I would put up, I think I'm speaking from the heart. I would just ask what their full plan is. I'm one of those individuals that love to know what the full plan is. I like to see everything right up front. So to understand it pretty much, let's say, back to front, that's how I am. I like to see everything. I think that's what I would ask, to know what their plan is. The only thing I would go ahead and put forward for a solution-wise and how we can implement it, I think it would be, the simple question I would ask is, what is your full proper approach? Like, what do you want to do to lead up into it? And I would make sure that it's as transparent with the entire community, because I think that's what we would need as a community to definitely know what's going to be implemented for the whole cost of living. Because taxes in Bermuda, sugar taxes, I know a lot of people don't really like the prices, but anyways, that's what I would do. I would have us sit down with them and fully just speak about what is their full plan and how can we make it as transparent to the entire community.
Amazing answer, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give it up for Mikhail again. Some great answers tonight. I must say that, this is a question that is very important, right? And as our boys transition into that next step of life, they'll be going away to college, they'll be going into that professional work field. These are the questions that are important, and it's great to get them thinking and going forward, and just to engage that thought topic. Give me 1 second, I'll come right back. Okay, yes, I'm gonna have to run off the first time. They're like, look, you can't yap too much about the question, about them coming up. So I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for our girls once again. It's been an amazing night so far. Like I was telling you, we're coming down to the best part of the show. They've been practicing for this for months. It took me a little while to get it when I done it, because my rhythm's not the best, but I leaned on my girls and we got it, and we guys got it through. So I think we know what part's coming up next. What part's coming up next? So, wait, okay, no. No, let me leave it to the girls. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise, please, for our Alpha Brothers. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do this to the stage. Make some noise. Okay, look, so they told me they're not ready yet. You say, look, they're just gonna change. You see this tux, it's gonna change all the tux. No, look, so they say you're gonna have to get the step right first before they can come up and do the step. Right, so I remember we have to do it in...
You got this?
Have you seen these guys step away in college when they're gonna do it? It's crazy. The craziness. I'm telling you, I got a good step for you tonight. A little piece of it looked familiar from what we had done as well too. And year that we thought it was Black Panther 2018. That was a crazy year. Black Panther, everyone remember that movie? Yes, on the soundtrack to it. So I just love it. I just love it. Let's give it up one more time for the Alpha Beautillion, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone's still here, right? Let's give it up one more time, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, one last step. Judges, how are you feeling? Judges, how are we looking? The judges look like they're busy. They're busy. I think it's going to be a tight one. I think I hear something back there. I think the judges are excited as me because they need to get me. They got me step down. They got it dialed in, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, let's make some noise one more time for our Alpha Beautillion.
This is fast like a zoom out.
part of the evening now. We kind of prolonging it all night. But I think this is the best part of the evening right now. Are we ready? I think it's time for Toastmasters to come up to the stage, isn't it? Let's welcome Toastmasters up to the stage, ladies and gentlemen. These guys do an amazing job. I remember them drilling us now when we was doing it. They're like, yo, you need a practice mirror. Like, yo, they're amazing. This is the reason why our young men are doing so good tonight. Let's put our hands together one more time. Can we hear some noise or who do you think now? Come on, like, I'm not gonna give it away that easy. I can't give it away that easy. Everyone's still in the building, yes? Okay. Okay, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together one more time for Toastmasters and the Alpha Beautillion.
Good evening, everybody. Crowd. My name is Ebony Frey, and this is Mrs. Kim King's best. We represent an organization called Toastmasters. If you just stop giving us an intro, anybody know what Toastmasters is? I will tell you, it is a public speaking and leadership organization with a 100-year plus history. It is a global organization, and here in Bermuda we have existed for over 30 years. This is our 12th year partnering with the Alpha Beautillion, and congratulations to not just our birds, our parents. Listen, we are the working brilliant. Now we see these boys after school, before football, before basketball, before karate, before Victorian practice. They have lives, and they also eat a lot. So give the parents a round of applause. We again are dedicated to public speaking, so we run through a program that we call Speechcraft, which is to get a break not only for the prepared speeches you've seen tonight, but also the impromptu question. There is a formula, believe it or not, and we do not judge on content. We always judge on delivery. Pick up our judges who have the hardest job tonight. So we feel when we get someone who wants to choose the word we thought followed this particular formula for either the prepared or impromptu speeches. Any words, Kim? Kim's being very quiet tonight. Yeah. So again, 12 years, this is 23 years. It's the Jordan year for the Buzz. Yeah, the Beautillion's been running for 23 years, and we come with the 12 and always honor. One applause for Buzz. I'm proud of you guys. I've seen the progress, and I know Miss Kim feels the same way. We tell your parents about how you like to come out of school, but we have seen the progress in the, 6 months that we have worked with you. We have a proud to be standing here, not only congratulating you on what you've done, but also saluting you. Public speaking is not an easy thing to do, so everybody was already cheering you on. I told you we would be, and I just want to congratulate you on the stellar job that we saw tonight. All right, we probably token of our appreciation for the Buzz. We do have personalized prizes for them, but as I mentioned, that formula that we teach them and take the paces through week in and week out, we're going to award just a token for who we thought gave the best speech and best impromptu tonight as well. So they are gathering prizes. How you guys feeling? Sweating? You alright? It's over? 4 out of 5 of the Buzz this year graduated, so they have still did a good job tonight, so again, we are excited. We are just looking because they are personalized, so guys are stepping forward. Kim's gonna come and present you with some gifts. They're taking a long time. They want me to do the impromptu question at this point, right? They want to show us gifts. Yes, it's some nice things.
First gift we have Mr. Trey from George Academy.
All right, we had pictures. Oh, Trey, come back. Sorry, we gotta have pictures apparently. Yeah, we do a favor. We do a favor. All right, thank you, Trey. Next up, we could be Summer School Academy.
Follow them.
All right, Mr. Butterfield, representing C. Good stuff, Mr. Butterfield. Don't look around, last but not least, Mr. Jacob. All right, give it up for all five good best speaker or best prepared speaker in the country, so Kim will give the
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for the opportunity to partner with the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. We, this evening, aside from the judging, have selected who we thought gave the best speech and the best impromptu response. So because these are young men and they have bikes, these are gasket cards, which I'm sure they will use. The best impromptu response to a question about cost of living, something that affects all of us, this evening goes to Trey. We thought the best speech this evening was given by Nico. Thank you.
Alright, it's that time of the night, everybody. Are you ready? We're going to have Jacoa come up and he's going to do the honors. Well, he's going to help me to do the honors this evening, so... Okay, and this is for the Modern Gent Award this evening, so that would be cool.
Good evening, everybody. How's everyone this evening? My name is Jacoa Boaz, Brother Jacoa Boaz. I'm actually the chairman of the Alpha Beautillion this year. I would give these guys another round of applause. Usually I would be on their hosting, but I brought up Antoine, one of our former members, to our host. So these gifts are from me. On behalf of me, thank you for you guys. For all your hard work over the last 6 months, you guys have kept me on my toes, running up and down, grateful mile every morning on Sunday. It's rough. They had me running here, it was crazy. But this is a token of my appreciation to you guys and your hard work. So thank you for everything you guys have done for the Beautillion this year. Alright, now is the women award we're waiting for. You guys ready? Yeah! Alright, get it over to Antoine. Thank you again.
I'm telling you, they put me in the hot seat every time. Let's make some noise for our fellows again this year. Okay, so we're going to start to honor our goals here. We have our first participants. We have Ishmael Naylor from Bermuda Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make some noise. Next we have Trey Simmons from the Warwick Academy. Gotta grab my toe, it's getting hot. we have our second runner-up. I need a drum roll. Dejan Butterfield. All right, I need another drum roll, ladies and gentlemen. Make some noise, everyone, this is time now. We have our first runner-up, Michaela Willis. And we have our winner of the Alpha
Damn, that's brave.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some more noise for the Alpha Girls. Coming out this evening, folks. It's been an amazing show. I told you it was going to be a tight one. I didn't know. Thank you so much. Let's put our hands together one more time.
All right. So in typical Beautillion fashion, we're going to call the brothers that are in the building around to circle around our booths so we can sing Alpha hymn, and we can end the night on a good note, yeah? Come back, guys.
Hey.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together once again. I'm going to say thank you to each and every one of you for coming out this evening. You are what matters as well, too. Thank you so much. At this time, I'm going to invite you up for pictures, to meet your girls as well, too. Feel free to come up. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing evening.